Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are going to talk about a teaching technique that can, no joke, completely change the vibe in your classroom. It's called eliciting, and it's all about one simple but super powerful shift, moving from telling your students the answer to asking the right questions so they can find it themselves.
All right, let's be real for a second, especially for all the educators out there. Have you ever been mid-lesson and suddenly realized you're doing all the talking? You're just explaining and explaining and explaining some more? Yeah, don't worry, we've all been there. But what if there was a better way, a more engaging way to get the point across?
Well, here's the secret sauce. This is the whole idea in a nutshell. It's such a simple truth, but it's so powerful. When a student feels like they're the one who figured it out, that knowledge just sticks. It's not just some fact they were handed, it's a discovery they made.
So that habit of explaining everything, it's not that it's a mistake exactly. But it's a huge missed opportunity. It's the difference between having a room full of passive listeners and a room full of active, engaged thinkers.
And that is where eliciting comes in. Seriously, think of this as your teaching superpower. It's a total shift in your role, from being the teacher at the front who has all the answers to being a guide on the side who helps your students find their own path. So, what do we actually mean by eliciting? Well, it's basically the art of asking really smart questions or using clever cues to pull out the information that your students already have bubbling just under the surface. They might not even know they know it. It's all about building on what's already there.
Okay, this slide right here, this is the aha moment. This is where it all clicks. So the old way is to just state a fact, right? We use going to for future plans. Okay, fine. But the eliciting way turns it into a little puzzle. So, when do we say I'm going to travel? Now or in the future? See the difference? One tells, the other asks. One is passive, the other makes the student's brain light up and make the connection. That's the magic.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a neat trick, but does it really make a difference? Oh, it absolutely does. This isn't just about changing your style for the sake of it. There are some really solid reasons why this approach just flat out works better. Let's get into them. First off, engagement goes through the roof. It's simple, really. When students know you might ask them a question at any moment, they stay tuned in. You're not just talking at them anymore. You're having a real conversation with them. And it's an amazing tool for you. You get this instant X-ray vision into what your students actually get and what they don't. But it gets even better. This process actually forces students to dig into their own brains and make connections. That kind of active thinking is what makes learning stick for the long haul. And maybe the most important part, it builds confidence. Every single time a student finds the answer themselves, it's a little win. It tells them, hey, I can do this, and that feeling is priceless.
Okay, so we're all on board with why this works. Now for the really fun part. How do you actually do it in your classroom? And the best news is, this isn't some complicated theory. It's about practical, simple strategies you can literally start using tomorrow.
So, first, use cues. Pictures, little stories, real-world examples, anything to get their brains going. Second, your questions matter. Instead of yes or no questions, ask open-ended ones, like, why do you think? Next, and this is huge, you don't need the perfect answer right away. If a student is close, awesome, celebrate that, and then gently guide them the rest of the way. And finally, your energy sets the tone. A smile, a nod, it all tells your students it's safe to take a chance.
All right, before we wrap this up, I've got one last pro tip for you. And honestly, this might be the hardest part of eliciting to master, but it is one of the most important, for sure.
Just let that sink in for a second. As teachers, we get so uncomfortable with silence, don't we? We feel this urge to jump in and fill the void. But when you've asked a really good question, that silence you hear? That's not failure. That's the sound of gears turning. It's the sound of learning. You have to learn to get comfortable with that pause. It's where the magic happens.
Look, eliciting is a skill, and like any skill, you get better with practice. So we'll leave you with this question to think about for your own classroom. What's your favorite way to draw out grammar or vocab from your students? Figuring that out is the first step. Thanks for tuning in to This Explainer.